New York City was bursting with lights. It was a warm spring evening, and the air was filled with the aroma of flowering trees and fresh coffee from numerous coffee shops. Emily Harper stood in front of a tall glass building in Midtown Manhattan, clutching a small gift box. Inside was a designer desk clock, a symbol of the time she always lacked for herself while she took care of others. "Don't look like you're going to be executed," she muttered to herself as she looked into the mirrored surface of the door. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore a modest navy blue coat, not at all like her sister's. Inside, in a luxurious room on the 20th floor, a crowd of guests was already gathering. Bartenders were pouring sparkling wine, waiters were scurrying between tables, and laughter was coming from every corner. Banners with the words, "Congratulations, Jessica," reminded everyone whose day it was. Jessica Harper is successful, ambitious, and flawless. She has just become the youngest partner at the prestigious Mason & Company law firm. Her career is a continuous ribbon of achievements. And tonight's party was yet another proof of her triumph. Emily crossed the room, trying not to catch anyone's eye. She felt like an outsider at the celebration, where everyone was congratulating not just her sister, but a symbol of victory that she herself was too far away from. "Oh, look who's here," a familiar voice said. Jessica was standing at the stage, with a glass of champagne and her usual half-smile that bordered on disdain. "A real surprise, Em. I thought you were too busy, taking care of cats or something." The guests laughed. Emily forced a smile, even though her jaw was involuntarily tight. She knew it would be difficult. But she didn't think it would be this difficult. "Hi, Jess. Congratulations on your promotion," she said, holding out the box. Jessica took the gift and nodded. "How cute. A clock. A symbol of how quickly life passes when you accomplish nothing?" Emily pretended she hadn't heard. She searched her eyes for familiar faces, trying to avoid the cameras and microphones. The event clearly had a PR angle. "You two are so different," someone said quietly behind her. It was Mason, a junior partner at the firm. "Jessica is like a storm, and you're like a calm harbor. Maybe sometimes storms are tiring," Emily replied more to herself. The party continued. Music played, new guests arrived, and toasts followed one after another. But Emily already felt that this would be an evening she would remember, not because of the champagne or the gifts. There was something in the air, as if someone was about to tell the truth that had long been suppressed. And she didn't know that it was in this very room that the words would be spoken that would change everything, not only for her, but for Jessica as well. The evening went on, and the room was filled to capacity with partners, lawyers, assistants, and influential clients of the firm. Everyone was holding a glass, everyone was smiling, but the smiles were cautious, almost businesslike. This wasn't a celebration, it was a status show. Jessica was beaming, and it was her element. Emily stayed to the side, near the appetizer table, avoiding the eyes and cameras. Her fingers twirled her napkin nervously. She was about to leave when the lights dimmed and a young assistant with a microphone appeared in the center of the room. "And now, friends, it's time for a few words from the heroine of the evening, Jessica Harper." The applause spread throughout the room. Jessica stepped forward with a glass and a confident gait, as if she were attending a court hearing where she knew the verdict in advance. She picked up the microphone, paused as she always does, and began. "Thank you to everyone who is here today. It is a great honor for me. I remember when I came to Mason & Company 5 years ago and promised myself that I would not stop until my name appeared on the partner's door." The room applauded again. She smiled and then looked at her sister. Her eyes sparkled. "And I am grateful for my family, at least the part that is here today." A pause. Some of the guests looked at each other in surprise. "You know, every family has a star. There is the one who moves the world, and there are, well, others. Someone has to be the background. Someone has to play the role of the one who couldn't make it." Emily felt the room suddenly go silent. Everyone was looking at her. My sister Emily is an example of how sometimes life chooses a different path for you. She did not become a lawyer, did not make a career, did not conquer the world. But you know, not everyone has to be a winner. Someone has to lose. The laugh is hesitant, uncomfortable, like a stream of ice water. But I'm still glad you came, Em. You've always been special. Jessica smiled and turned to the audience. And now to new heights. Applause. Someone whistled. And Emily stood as if under a spotlight, her cheeks burning and her eyes swimming. Her heart was pounding in her chest. For a moment she wanted to run away, just run out of the room and never look back. But she stayed. That was very brave, a familiar voice said behind her. She turned around and saw David Lawrence, a senior partner and Jessica's supervisor, standing in front of her. Are you okay? He asked quietly, almost whispering. Emily barely nodded. She couldn't get a word out. Her hands were shaking, and she hid them behind her back. David stared at her for a moment longer, and then walked forward to the stage. The light was again focused on the center of the room. If I may, he said, taking the microphone, I'd like to say a few words as well. Jessica raised her eyebrows in surprise, but took a step back. We all know Jessica as a talented lawyer, but I heard something today that I can't ignore. About winners and losers. The room became quiet. Even the music stopped. Success is not only about great deeds, big names and titles. It is also a choice who to be when no one is looking. And I'd like to tell you about a young woman who turned down a lucrative position in Seattle because she had to take care of her seriously ill mother. A woman who didn't fight a legal battle, but won the most important one: humanity. The eyes of many guests turned to Emily. She stood there stunned. Only a few people knew her story. And if this is called playing the loser's game, then give me that kind of defeat. Because in a world where everyone is chasing triumph, honesty and self-sacrifice are a real rarity. The audience was silent. And then, applause. At first quiet, and then louder. And this applause was not for Jessica. She stood aside, pale and stony-faced. Her evening had just become not hers. And Emily, for the first time in a long time, felt that she was more than a background. For several long seconds the room was silent, dense, almost physically tangible. Even the air conditioners seemed to stop humming as everyone listened to David Lawrence, the law firm's senior partner, pause after his unexpected speech. He looked at Emily again, and then turned his eyes to the guests. You know I have devoted my life to law, justice and truth. But tonight I heard a monologue that reminded me how easy it is to forget what matters most. All of us here are successful, smart, ambitious. But if our success is based on humiliating others, even our own family, then maybe we are not such winners after all. Jessica froze. Her smile disappeared, her shoulders slumped slightly as if she had lost her balance. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for at least one ally. But the familiar gazes that had been enthusiastic 5 minutes ago were now wary, even cold. Emily, David spoke to her directly. You don't have to stand there. And before she could say anything, he gestured for her to come over to him. Emily froze, her heart leaping in her chest. Everyone was looking at her. Everyone was waiting. And for the first time in many years, she stepped forward, not because she had to, but because she felt the strength in her. She walked to the center slowly, slightly embarrassed, but with her head held high. When she stopped next to David, he handed her the microphone. She took a breath, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know what to say. I came here today to support my sister. No matter what. The looks on the faces of the audience were completely different now. There was no pity in them, only respect. I have never chased titles. I did what I thought was right. Maybe it didn't look like success, but my mom was sick, and I couldn't leave her alone. She swallowed back the tears that were coming. We spent the last months together. I read her favorite books, we listened to music, and she said, "You are the best part of my life." Someone in the audience sighed. Someone's eyes sparkled. Jessica seemed halved in sighs. And if this is defeat, I accept it. The applause was sudden and loud. It wasn't polite or forced. They were real. People applauded her not for her courage, but for her heart. For her honesty. Emily stood in the center of the room, as if the sun was shining only on her. For the first time, she did not feel out of place. For the first time, she was seen not as Jessica's shadow, but as herself. After the official part, people came up to her one by one. "Your story touched me. You are a true example of strength. Thank you for sharing." Jessica watched from the sidelines, her glass almost empty, her makeup a little smeared, and her smile forced. David came over. "Jessica." His voice was even. "I think you should reconsider how you treat people. Especially those who deserve more than you're willing to admit." "It was my night," she whispered, clutching the glass. "And it was. Just not in the way you expected." He left. And Jessica was left standing alone, feeling for the first time what it was like to be the background. The evening gradually faded away. The music faded, the waiters cleared the last glasses, and the crowd began to disperse slowly, reluctantly, as if no one wanted to leave a place where an unexpected reassessment of values had just taken place. Emily stood at the panoramic window, looking out at Manhattan at night. Its lights no longer seemed distant and cold to her. They were warm, almost cozy. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small in this city. She was a part of it. Sarah, a former classmate of Jessica's, now a lawyer at the same firm, came up next to her. "I never really knew you," she admitted. "But today you did more than dozens of successful people I know." Emily just smiled. "I just told the truth. And that's a rare thing these days." With that, Sarah hugged her and left. Emily was left alone for a moment, and then someone came up to her again, shook her hand, and thanked her. And each time, her surprise did not diminish. But a new feeling had already matured inside her, confidence. Meanwhile, Jessica stood off to the side, behind a column. Her festive dress could now be called too loud, and her hairstyle too perfect. She listened to her colleagues discussing, not her. She felt the attention that had nourished her like oxygen for so long suddenly disappear. And she felt cramped in her own body. For the first time in her life. "It's not fair," she whispered to herself. She was just silent. But the truth was that Jessica had given her sister the stage. Her own arrogance had become the best billboard for Emily's sincerity. And what David said resonated deeper than any diploma or court victory. Toward the end of the evening, Emily went out on the terrace. The air was cooler, but pleasantly fresh. She took a deep breath, feeling like she was starting a new chapter, not one that was supposed to be like someone else's life, but her own. "So what are you going to do now?" a familiar voice suddenly asked. It was David. Emily shrugged her shoulders. "For the first time in a long time, I don't know. But I'm not going to hide anymore. I have experience, I have education. And I definitely have a story. If you want," he said, "I have one position. Not on the show, not public. But it is important. For those who see more than the letters of the law. Think about it." He left her a business card and left. Emily was left alone, holding the card like a key to a door she never knew existed. And behind her, near the stage, the janitor was taking down the "Congratulations, Jessica" banner. He rolled it up and took it backstage without looking. No one applauded Jessica when she was the last one to leave the hall. She walked quickly, gritting her teeth, accompanied by the barely audible clatter of her heels. It was her night. But not her triumph. And the applause, which will be remembered for a long time by those in the audience, was not for her.